Welcome to Teenagers, Toddlers, and Twins. On this podcast, we discuss parenting, partnerships and relationships, mental health, and so much more. Now, here's your host, Ryan.
The Oppenheimer Project.
Oh, hello, everybody. It is John and I. We're about 15 minutes late. That's my fault. We're still like ironing out some kinks over here, technical difficulties, but we're going to still go till 9 p.m. We're not going to go till 9:15, our hour length like we usually will. John, sorry, it's Monica's birthday, so once you get home from back to school night, we have to celebrate a little bit with the evening that we have left. But how are things going with you?
Things are going well. Happy birthday to Monica.
Thank you. I'll let her know if she's not watching already. Thank you very much.
It's a great month to be born in.
Are you born this month as well?
Yep, I'm on Tuesday.
You're
28th.
on Tuesday, the 28th. My sister's on the 24th. Monica's on the 22nd. Alexis was born on the 10th, and Monica and I met on September 2nd. So yeah, September is held near and dear within our family walls.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I wanted to tell you real quick, just to kind of prove that you, my master Yoda, John Anthony, who a lot of us look up to for advice, you were right again. Remember last time I was talking about how I was having struggles and frustration, and I just was like, I don't know where to start with the department and the policies and procedures and all that fun stuff?
Yep.
And like you said, the answer in some cases, in most cases, will reveal itself even after you were stressing out or worried and all that stuff. And the gentleman, he was right there, and he appeared in front of my face. His name is Emanuele. He is what we refer to as task force in the Marriott company, meaning that they are a professional in their discipline, and they may not be needed at their property right this second, so they help at other properties. And there he was, like the next day. And I went to go talk to him, and I said, could you help me out with some things? And he's been great ever since. But, there it was. He was the answer right there. I was stressing out for days. And I think the important part, like you said, is like, one, it kind of just appears. And two, it might not be there right away, even though you want it to be, right? The answer, the person, the solution, it just might not be there right away. And when I actually asked him the main question that I had, which was in regards to just like the flow of something, I can't even remember what it is at this point. He said to me, he's like, you're overthinking it. Here's what you do. And then I just whoosh, all the stress that I had that had built up from me not being able to get through this writer's block, it just went away. So what do you think about that? I mean, I kept thinking to myself, I got to tell John this happened. What do you think?
Well, by the way, I sent him over there. No, just kidding. But yeah, well, I think that we can overthink. Because what we're doing, especially when we're coming from, our conscious part of the brain, we're trying to think about what we should do rather than just, coming up with ideas where we allow our unconscious part to come in. And the analogy that I think of is snow skiing.
Mm-hmm.
When you snow ski, the first thing I was taught is don't look at your skis. Because when you're looking at your skis, you look down at your skis, you see where they are, and then you see the hill and where you want to go. And all that takes too much time. And so when you just look ahead where you want to go and start to feel your skis, then you can move them much more quickly because you do it by feel rather than having to think about it. And, I think that there's a similarity between what you're going when we're overthinking. We're just so much into our logical part of the brain that we're not able to access other parts of the brain that are going to come up with creativity and ideas and things like that. So I'm glad that Emmanuel came to you and that is helping you out, and getting rid of all that stress is always a good thing.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. And I thought exactly, because we had the conversation before, and I thought about it, and I was like, wow, here we are again. It just everything kind of worked itself out. So yeah, that's where I kind of am with that. So here's what I wanted to talk about tonight. And I wasn't really sure how to title it, and I'm sure the title will come to me after, kind of just in regards to what we just talked about right there. But I am working a lot. I am stressed, right? All my coworkers and I are stressed, right? That doesn't mean we can't handle it. It just means that we have a lot to deal with right now. We are building a hotel. We are training employees. As you know, there's a labor shortage everywhere. Everybody, our linen company, the restaurants, vendors, everybody's having trouble hiring right now, and it's just the name of the game. So that just adds a little bit more pressure. There's a couple of times the last couple of weeks where I just was like, whatever is like there's things going on around me in my personal life or at work that are just kind of like things that wouldn't normally bug me, but because as you would refer to it, my cup is almost overfilled. You know what I mean? It's kind of
An
like
emotional cup. Yeah.
Yeah, my emotional cup, it's right there, and I keep trying to take little sips just to keep everything balanced, right? But I wanted to talk about having to take responsibility even when all of this stress is going on, right? And through all the reading I've done, Jocko Willink, all the work I've done with you, John Anthony, all these audiobooks and these influencers and people I listen to, at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own emotions. And, last week it hit me. I went outside to work out after a rough couple of days, and I came back inside and I just looked at Monica and I grabbed her and I was like, I just want to apologize for being so stressed out the last couple of days. It's just been a lot on me. And she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, babe, the old you would have been picking at everything, would have been saying that I wasn't doing this right, would have been saying that the laundry should have been done, would have been saying that why can't we keep the house clean, whatever the case may be, right? We're talking like me a couple years ago. So she was like, I didn't even know that you were stressed right now. So I'm going to give you all the props that you deserve right now. So like, talk to me about this, about what would you say about being stressed out as young teenagers, adults, and just having to remember that even though there actually may be people or factors responsible for why you're feeling this way at that very second in time, at that very minute, as the day and weeks go on, you are still responsible for how you react to everything around you.
Well, I agree with that. We're always responsible for what we do. And I think the key is to look at what are you feeling, like especially looking for your fears. What am I afraid of losing? What am I afraid of not getting? And then as you start to see the different fears, it's important to see, is this something that's happening right now? Or is this something that might occur in the future? And if you're and chances are what you're doing is you're having a lot of thoughts about what might happen in the future. And if you're stressed, you're not thinking, positive, loving things about the future. You're thinking fear of what I don't want. And so when we're having those, and we call those negative fantasies, when you're positive, they're positive fantasies.
Right.
But whether it's positive or negative, I have to remind myself, that's a fantasy. It hasn't happened yet. It might, but right now, that's not where it is.
Right.
And then I need to get back into the present and deal with what I do know. And when I'm dealing with what I do know, it's going to be more manageable because I'm not adding to it all the things about tomorrow and the next week that I can't do anything about right now. I can plan about those things, but I can't make them happen. I heard someone, just last weekend talk about breathing, and breathing is something that we can only do in the present. I can't breathe in the past, and I can't breathe in the future.
Right.
So when we focus on that breathing as you're trying to find your fears, and you make sure that you have, full breaths, where your diaphragm is expanding. First of all, when you do, like if you put one hand on your chest and the other hand on your stomach, when you inhale, you want to make sure that your stomach is coming out, and then exhale. And then what happens is you're using your full diaphragm.
Right.
And when we do that, there's a nerve that goes down along the spine that the diaphragm presses against. And when the diaphragm presses against that nerve, it helps to soothe us. So that's the importance of breathing while you're going through all that stress, and make sure that you're taking full deep breaths. And the good thing is, like, to count inhale at 4, and then exhale on the count of 8. And when you're doing that and you're looking for what are you afraid of losing or not getting, it's going to help to reduce your stress. And when you get into the present, of getting away from the fantasies, and what can I do right now? What can I do right now? Or what do I have to be concerned about right now? And then address those concerns.
You know what I was thinking?
No.
I think that there is I would say a huge portion of the human population is not breathing correctly. Does that make sense? Like, I was actually reading about this. Like, every step we take, when we're walking, even when we're not stressed and things are fine and good, when we're at the mall, when we're just walking wherever the next step is at work, we're not taking like the full in. We're not breathing correctly. Inhale, exhale to the like you just said, like the right. And I'm probably sure when I would think about it, I'm doing a lot of instead of like. And one of the things I was thinking about, going back to Jocko Willing, one of the lessons he was saying that he learned when he was in sniper training was he was learning that even though he was able to successfully accomplish Bud School when he was trying out for the SEALs, all the running, all the push-ups, all the endurance training that he did, it wasn't until he went to sniper school, he said, that he realized that he was not breathing correctly, that he was just like he just wasn't doing it. Like, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, people, like most of us are not breathing correctly. Well,
I think it makes sense, and it's somewhat understandable. The breathing, the lungs, they're like a muscle, and we can, like, when we work out, we can, there's, you can, if you're doing a curl, if you just do short curls, it's going to change the muscle.
Yeah.
And if you do the long curls or pull-ups, when you go full extension
right.
with your arms and then pull up, then you're, developing the muscle differently than if you just do short pull-ups.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that there's, the breathing is kind of like a habit. And I think that it's real easy to get into the habit of just having the short breaths and not just taking the long breaths, the full deep breaths. And so the more that we're conscious of it, the more that we're doing it, and then we can make that our habit. So It makes sense.
Yeah. And I was actually, what was I thinking about? When I thought about that, I actually stopped and I was like nothing crazy, not closing my eyes, not listening to any music or anything. I was just like, even just focusing on breathing, the full inhale and exhale, my body already feels a little bit better. It was very interesting to me. I was like, right. And everybody always, and what if our parents and our mentors and everybody said to us our whole life, take a deep breath, right? Take a deep breath, relax, think about what's going on, fix whatever, whatever. So
I couldn't see your diaphragm when you did that, but you got to make sure that your stomach is coming out, when you're inhaling. And then when you exhale, you're bringing your stomach in, and that helps to really use your full diaphragm.
That actually just feels better right there. Oh, yeah. So anyway, sorry. So yeah, I like that.
And that's why meditation is so helpful, because when you're breathing, focusing on your breathing and your meditation, you're focusing on making sure that you have long, deep breaths. And so not only does it hit that nerve going along the spine, but you're getting in more oxygen and you're exhaling more carbon dioxide, which is going to help you to better, have your blood flow, be oxygenated the way it needs to be. And so,
yeah, no, definitely. And like I said, I already feel a difference. But so I had a few questions for you in regards to what I was talking about, being stressed at work or in life and then taking responsibility in the moment, especially, if we have families, even if we don't have families, right? But when we have families, like I came home today and Monica had back to school night and I had all the kids and something had happened at work and I just wanted to respond to that email, right? And then the boys start arguing and they're hungry and Jade and I just was like, okay, right? And then Axe touched the thermostat, and I was like, because if I didn't take that deep breath, if I didn't stop and pause, I was going to yell at Axe the way he didn't need to be yelled at, right? He's an infant still. Mm-hmm. He sees a thermostat. He's playing with it. He's a kid, right? He doesn't know any better. So that's me after working on myself, like I say, with you and various other items and books and all that. But what's it like for people who work high stress jobs or whatever the case may be? They are needed by multiple people and they're needed by so many people that eventually the dialogue from them becomes, well, I work all these hours. The house should be a certain way when I get home. Well, I bring home the paycheck. I bust my hump all day, right? There's that entitlement. And some people might see it as a sense of entitlement. But me, I'm kind of just like, and again, maybe sometimes it is a case of just somebody feeling entitled. But for me, it's kind of like, you're stressed and you don't really know where to turn right now. And you're kind of just saying that everybody else is responsible for the little things that you can't control. So how do you help people through that? Because I'm sure you do. I'm guessing you hear it, right? Well, I work all day. The house should be clean when I get home or whatever. How do you work through that? What is often your suggestions?
Well, I think that the thing to remember is that when we're stressed, that there's fear happening. Fear of losing something that we have, or the fear of not getting something that we desire. And if we don't look for those fears, we're not going to be able to address them. And if I have all these people pulling at me, there's certain things that I can't control, like the number of calls or the number of people going, talk to me, or whatever. And so you're going through your work day with a whole lot of things that are external that I can't control. And we're wanting to control something. And so we come home and we try to control others.
Mm-hmm.
And when the thing is, what we need to control is ourself. We need to go inside. The easiest thing for all of us when there's a problem is to try to change the people around us or the situation around us. When what we really need to do is to go within and change what's going on internally and find what my fears and shames are, because they're just showing me where love is missing. The love that we talk about all the time in the Are You a Cat? The respect, understanding, acceptance, caring, appreciation, and trust. And where that love is missing is from me to me. And so if I don't do that, then I'm not going to be able to be in control of myself. And then I'm not going to be able to optimize my ability to respond to everything around me. So then I'm going to get caught up in trying to control things externally that I really can't control. And I'm going to get into power struggles with people that aren't doing what I want them to do when I want them to do it, and things that aren't happening when I want them to happen. And then I'm going to get even more stressed because I'm trying to put all this energy into controlling something I can't control, when what I really need to do is to learn how to control what I can control. It reminds me of when my wife was pregnant with our twins. And, I wanted to do something with a folding table or something to try to help and make things better for her as I saw it. And, she was just having a fit. And a very good friend of our families, through Veta, um, who has, 4 children of her own, she said, listen, she says, when a woman's pregnant, there's all these things that she can't control, the hormones and all these things that are happening, and she can't control all of those things. The only thing she can control is the nest, the home.
Yeah.
So don't fight her, let her have that control, because it's, the way that she's trying to, feel like she can control something, and so when she's trying to control the home, that's not a problem. It's not going to, impact me unless she decides I shouldn't be there. But it's not going to be a problem with her controlling the home. But when you come home and you're trying to control somebody else to control the home, see, that's when it becomes a problem, because you're trying to make that person be who you want them to be. In other words, you have a movie script that you've written and they got to live up to it. But it's not just in what they say, it's in what they do and when they do it. And it's just a way that it's a way that I distract myself from my fears and my sadnesses and my shames about, the things that are going on that, I can't control, but I can control how I respond to them. And that's the key.
I like all that. I have a question for you. And I know that we always talk about, your dad, and he was, old school, hardworking. I would say that my dad, is the same, right? Well, he's retired now, but it's kind of like we're living in a different time, right? We're living in a very different time, and I see articles all the time where articles just say people aren't working jobs they don't want to work anymore. They're just quitting, right? Okay, that's just an example. And I don't want to quit my job. That's not that's not what I'm saying or what I'm saying I want to do. I enjoy my job. I know that this isn't forever. I know that we're all in a unique situation. And in any case, I need to make the best of the situation that I possibly can, right? And in some of these instances, it's just me not getting done what I need to get done. And in some cases, I just can't. Time doesn't allow. I don't have all the resources I do right now, or need, or could have, right? But it's different. It's unique. Anyway, I digress. But people are no longer staying at places where they are not happy, right? And I don't think that's something that our parents really did when we were younger, right? When they were working, it was kind of just like you kept your head down and worked, but it's a different time, right? People are just they want to be happy, which is fine, right? We want to be happy. We don't want to work a job that completely stresses us out to the point where we can't enjoy when we're actually off. And so, I mean, at what point do we tell somebody who just, I'm just stressed at work. It's work. It's work. At what point do we tell somebody, or how do we tell somebody, listen, you have all these capabilities, you have all this experience. Look at what's going on. But you're never happy. You're always stressed out. Maybe it's time to find something else. I mean, can we have that conversation? What does that conversation sound like? Have you had to have it with anybody that you've worked with?
It's very difficult to have that conversation. We have to be careful, because I can't be telling somebody what's going on for them, or what they should do. And really, the best way to have that conversation is not by me asking questions or giving direction, but by listening to where they are. The questions I can ask, like, what are you feeling? What's going on? And then that those feelings help to show what they're thinking, and then they're starting to understand themselves and what's going on. But I think that part of the reason, the evolution, back during the Depression, and I've heard a lot of stories from people that went through the Depression.
Yeah.
And when people were going through the Depression, back in the 30s, people didn't have a job,
Right.
and then they couldn't eat. And so the idea of saying, well, I got a job, but I don't like it,
Yeah.
it just wasn't possible.
No,
You
it
know,
didn't do that. Yeah.
yeah, because they were just so grateful to have a job, and then they would just stick it out, and ride it through,
Yeah.
unless there was something that was better paying, and then they might go for that. But there was just that mentality: be thankful you have a job.
Right.
Be thankful you have a job. And then I think that got passed down to their children, and and we all pass things down to our children. What our parents teach us that are good, we pass down, and what our parents teach us that are bad, we pass down. But sometimes our parents teach us what not to do, and we learn from their mistakes. And a lot of times, hopefully, they taught us what to do, and so we can build on that, and add a few, touches here and there, and make it even better. And so I think that and so now, especially now, the worker seems to have the corner on, what they want to do, because there are a lot of people that weren't working because of COVID,
Right.
and they were afraid of putting themselves at risk. And then, I think it was a good thing that the government helped those people to still have money coming in.
I
But
was
then
one of
when it,
them. I was hurting when they got rid of the benefits, but go on. I'm sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
but then when they, now things are somewhat safer, and if apparently if you're vaccinated, those people are having less difficulties with the virus than the ones who aren't vaccinated. I don't want to go off into that political thing, but as you just said, you're looking for workers, and
Yeah.
a lot of companies are looking for workers, and so
Yeah.
this is the time to somebody to move to another job, because there are plenty of jobs out there. But when there aren't a whole lot of jobs out there, then that's when people are more tending to just be grateful they have one, and they'll ride it out.
Yeah. And I always say, like, if there's never been a better time to do what you actually want to do, right? We're in a time where and actually one of the most, I can never, Gary V, we call him. He's a very successful entrepreneur. He's always talking about in the next 5 to 10 years, you won't see you'll still see Walmart and Amazon and all that. He's like, you're also going to see a wave of entrepreneurs who are successful, right? Because COVID, a lot of people had time to build and do what they always wanted to do. And I always say there's never been a better time to do what you want to do, because if you're working on your project and you have the resources, you can DoorDash, right? You can work for all these companies part-time at your own schedule, and you can actually do pretty well if you put the effort in. I know DoorDash, if you DoorDash all day in the right area, you can probably make like $300-$400 all day. I'm talking like all day, right? But you could make some money if you put the effort in. But so I wanted to say something in regards to having the conversation, and you were saying, we're asking people what to do or what's going on, right? We're trying to start the conversation with this person who maybe needs to make some changes. So Monica has seen me at my best. She's seen me at my worst. She was chasing Jade around while she was pregnant with the twins while I was working in New York, right? She's seen me through all of it. And she saw me through all of that when I still wasn't very healthy mentally. So it was like the second week that I was in this role and we were opening the hotel. I came home and she was sitting on the couch and she was like, hi. And I was like, hi. And she's like, come sit down for a second. And I was like, okay. And she's like, how are you? I was like, I'm good. And she's like, I want to let you know something. You're starting to slip a little bit today, right? I think I was a little bit like cold or kind of like, I can't talk about this right now, right? I'm busy, whatever. She's like, listen, I saw you through all of it in New York. I can hold down the house. I can make everything work with the kids and my job, get them to school, everything like that. You don't have to worry about anything. But if you come home and you bring your problems through that door, we're going to have a problem, right? And now the point I'm trying to make is that she wasn't telling me what to do or asking me, right? I took it as she was telling me where she was and how she feels and what she can handle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that kind of
Exactly.
conversation?
Well, see, that's actually more personal than me asking you questions about where you are when it's really me, that has a concern and, something that I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose, the partner that I had. Um, and with all this stress, it's going to change how they're being if the partner lets it. And I don't want to put up with that, person who's short, cold, distant, cranky, however it was that it was affecting you, or just unavailable.
Right, right.
Yeah, because we're so consumed by what we're doing. And so when she was really like, it was a form of I statements, about what's going on for her. She told you what she could do and what she could handle so that you wouldn't have to worry about that. But she also told you what she was looking for from you as she was doing all of that work, because
Right.
I can guarantee you that her doing all those things with the kids and her job is just as demanding, if not more, than what you're going through.
100%. Yep. Totally agree.
Because children, especially young children like you have, toddlers, and you have a teenager, but toddlers are a real, they need a lot of attention and time. And, so that in and of itself is a full-time job.
Of course. I totally agree. Yeah.
And then when you have, and you've had moments when you were, holding down the fort, so you know what I'm talking about. And
I forgot about them until you just said it. Honestly.
Yeah. And so, and it's about, being appreciative of that and let the other person know, how much you appreciate what they're doing. That's, we all want that appreciation and, and acceptance and understanding of, what we're going through. And, getting that "Are you a cat?" Those are 3 of the "Are you a cats?" Getting that from others is can only be gravy, because we can't live off of just other people's love for us. We have to be able to love ourselves. But that gravy makes that meat and potatoes that we're supposed to cook for ourselves taste pretty good. And, meat and potatoes by themselves is fine, but when you get some gravy on it, it just makes it a lot more enjoyable. And so when we're giving that love to ourselves and cooking that meat and potatoes, we're going to be okay. But when we get it from others, it's just real nice to have that gravy to add on top of what we're already doing. So, it's we can only give gravy to other people, and it's good to throw some gravy around once in a while.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So
Not
we
at
gotta
them, but for them.
not physically, that's assault. We can't be throwing gravy at
Right.
people, right?
Right.
So we have about 10 minutes left, right? And we'll continue to talk, but we're talking about instances, right? We're talking about situations, scenarios. Why don't we try to maybe give like some direction, right? So I'm going to say, if I was the person or I am the person, right? I am the person that's in a unique situation, learning in my role, lots of changing things, right? Let's just say we're that person that's a little bit stressed at work in general, right? Or very stressed at work in general. I would say the first thing you need to do, like you said here, is take a deep breath, right? And I've seen this before on social media. They always there's a meme that says parking the car when you get home, turning off the car and taking 5 minutes is self-care, right? I would agree with that. if it's a long day, a long night, and you just pull up and you're not ready to go in, I think we've all been there. Take a deep breath, relax, gather yourself. You've earned it. Just take the silence in. Then we go inside. And if you feel like you're stressed, chances are your partner or those around you are going to feel like you're stressed. And if you're in the situation in a relationship or a marriage and you know that you're stressed, I would say be the first person to acknowledge it. Does that make sense? Tell your partner, listen, and it doesn't need to be like this. It can be a little more loose or whatever, but we're not cursing, right? We're not putting anybody down. We're not saying that everything is on me because your partner has things going on too. I would just say, hey, how are you? I just want to talk about how work's going. And if I seem a little bit off lately or I seem a little stressed, this is what's going on. And please feel free to let me know if you see these things happening, because I might not realize it right away, right? This is just me thinking off the top of my head. But the point I'm trying to make is maybe be the person to initiate the conversation, because I'm somebody who always says energy is very contagious, right? People will know if you're stressed or angry or whatever, and you don't really need to take any action. But I would say take a deep breath. If the situation calls for it, be the first person to acknowledge it in a marriage or relationship, and then see what we can do or what you can do to build a game plan or put some things together. What do you think?
Well, that sounds like what you're doing is wanting someone to give more understanding to themselves. And remember, in the definitions of the Are Your Cats, understanding is when I listen to my thoughts and feelings and pay attention to my behaviors. And so you're allowing yourself to listen to yourself. And, that 5 minutes that you were referring to before you get out of the car and you go in the house, it's just a way of, there's an expression like, my sister who, came on earlier, she lived in Florida, and I went down there, and she helped connect me with this guy who was a wholesaler. She worked for him, and he sold, beach hats and sunglasses and flip-flops and beach mats and all these things. And he sold them. He was a wholesaler, sold them to all these stores. And so I had a flea market business selling sunglasses from things that he had set up. And I just did it on the weekend, but he was working 7 days a week, and, I would help him do different things. And then one time I just said, I can't work today. And he says, what do you mean? I said, I have to let my mind catch up with my body. And he looked at me like I had 3 heads, and it was just what you're doing when you take those 5 minutes, it's like you're letting your thoughts, come to you, to your body, you can be aware of them, to your conscious mind.
Right.
And when you have something that you need to do, that's when the opportunity will come up, and you'll be able to, okay. But when you're just doing, then you're not necessarily going to be able to tap into that, other part of the brain, and, the unconscious part of the brain that is making you aware of other things that are important to you that you need to do.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good thing to do. And, that's why meditation is so beneficial, because it allows you to become more at one, your thoughts and your body, brings you to the present. Because when you're meditating, the things that are really urgent, for us are going to come to our consciousness. And, and then, you try to meditate and, put it back and, focus on whatever it is you're meditating on. But the things that are really important will come back. And then if you take time and address it, and then, in your own thinking, and then you put it aside, then you're helping to process through things, and you're understanding yourself better. And then you're going to be able to make better choices. Plus your cup's not going to be so full that, things are just spilling over on to other people.
Yeah. So I agree with everything you said. And I want to say one thing as an example, and then I want to get your opinion. Well, I want to say something / get your opinion / see where we go with it. lot of slashes there. Sorry, but so to what you were saying about catching up with our thoughts, right? Like I said, there's just, it's the name of the game. It's not just me. My peers and I were opening this hotel, and it's 6 day work week. Sometimes a little bit longer. Sometimes we just don't get to those days off right away. And I'm at that point where I just haven't been able to get to the day off. Yesterday, we were moving a lot of equipment, and the two people I was working next to had their days off. Fine, right? I'm not like, oh well, I didn't get my days off or anything, right? I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm thinking. If you took your days off, I hope you enjoyed them. I'm not going to bug you on your day off. I'll take my days off when I can get to them, and I just hope that you leave me alone as well, the way I left you alone. Whatever, right? But they came back. They're refreshed. They're recharged. They're ready to start moving around all this equipment. And John, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape. I love working out. I love moving. Never complain about it. I just did not have it in me to move those tables, right? I just did not have it in me mentally to make my body pick these tables up and start rearranging. And I was just like, listen, guys, I got to go. It's 5 o'clock. I've been here since 7. I haven't had a day off. I got to go. And they understood, right? But I could not pick up the tables and chairs at the pace that they were, right? And so to what you said, like, I couldn't do it. Like what'd you say? My thoughts need to catch up with my body.
Let my mind catch up with my body.
Yeah. My mind had to catch up with my body, and it was not there yet. I couldn't do it. Right. It wasn't like I didn't get 8 hours of sleep the day before or the night before. It wasn't like I didn't have my coffee. It wasn't like I had run a marathon the entire day. I just was like, this is something I just can't do today. So, and I also like to say, and this is a completely different podcast, but to what you just said, and I'm sure the guy you were working with was maybe one of these people. There's some entrepreneurs, there's some people, and I don't think that they should be faulted for it. They like to work, right? Like some people like to watch sports, some people like to build train sets, whatever their hobby may be. Some people just like to work. I don't think that people who like to work should be faulted for it, so long as they are doing it in a healthy manner and not, putting people down and whatever the case may be. But Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, all these people who are extremely successful in so many ways. Steve Jobs is one of them. Their threshold, I always tell people, is different. So when there's people who are like, well, why can't you be like them? Why can't you be like them? We all just have different thresholds. When you say like they were machines, they were completely different people. Their threshold was here, while mine might be here. They just were born with different capabilities and different drives. What do you think?
Well, we're all born differently, but I think that when we put a lot of energy into one thing, there's a price that we pay. And the price that we pay is that we don't get to do other things that are also important. When I'm working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, I don't get to spend a whole lot of time with my kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to spend a whole lot of time with my wife or my husband, and then what your gender is, or who you're married to. And so there's a price that we pay, and we got to find that balance so that we can, have, the things that are important to us that we're doing. And, and sometimes, people say, well, it's like, it's just for a month, it's 30 days that I haven't had a day off. And then, I'll start to get it. And so that's okay. And then some people say, well, it's just a year that I have to work without a day off, and I'll be okay. Or it's, 2 years or whatever, or I'm just going to do this while I'm in my 20s and 30s, and then I'll retire in my 40s, or, whatever the person tells themselves. But there's a price that we pay. And if we're willing to pay the price, then that's fine. But I think with some of the people you're describing, though, to them, what they're doing isn't work. It's something that they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And when you can have something that you would want to do if you didn't have to work, but it is your work and you get paid for it, see, that's a good thing. And I feel fortunate that that's what the work that I do. If I was independently wealthy, I'd still want to do the work that I do because I enjoy it and it's meaningful, to other people, and it's helpful, and it's a win-win situation. And so the key though is you listened to yourself and you said, I can't do this anymore. It's 5 o'clock and I need to go home. Whether it's because you were physically tired or because you were also just wanting to get home and see your family, or it's all happening on a conscious or unconscious level, you listened to yourself and then you respected yourself and you did what you needed to do. And that's very important. A lot of times because we're trying to do things for other people, or we're trying to live up to other people's, needs, and we're wanting their "Are you a cat?" We just run ourselves ragged, and then that's how we end up getting ill or injured, because our body's saying, hey, I've been telling you to slow down. Now you're going to get sick, and then you're going to have to slow down. Or now that you got that injury, now you're going to have to slow down. And when I was younger, I used to do a lot of backpacking, and sometimes I would do it by myself when I was out west and things. And I noticed that as I'm walking along, and then all of a sudden I started to feel a little twinge in my knee or something like that, or in my foot. And I'm out there in the boonies all by myself. And what I did was I just rested. I just stopped. And then I started again. Didn't have to rest for a long time, just a few minutes. And then all of a sudden I could be walking again, and I wasn't feeling that little ache or pain that I was feeling before, because that little ache or pain was telling me, whoa, wait a minute, give me a minute to catch, because the blood flow with the oxygen and the nutrients has to get to those cells, and then they have to discharge the carbon dioxide and the waste. And so sometimes they just need to get caught up that way in order to get back to functioning in a proper way. And when we listen to those things, then we're respecting our bodies and our lives, and then we're going to be healthier. But when we ignore those things, that's when we force ourselves to do things that our body isn't wanting to do right now, for whatever reason, because we're getting older, or because we just pushed it too far for too long. And then it catches our attention through illness or injury. So I'm glad that you listened to yourself, and I recommend that we all listen to ourselves. And you got to find that balance, because you have to do some kind of job if you're not independently wealthy. The key is to find one that you like, and then to put yourself at a pace that you're not going to be, burning yourself out.
Yeah. One thing I've been thinking lately is that I wonder what you think about this. First of all, yes, right? And I think that if you're like really intimidated or afraid to do what you need to do for your mental health or your physical health, you really need to evaluate that. You really need to see if the place you're working at really respects you, and if it's actually for you long term. I think that's important. And one of the things that I've been thinking a lot lately is that we really should give credit to our employers, or the employer or the boss, who sees you clock in, sees that you have your bags on, and sees you sit at your desk or wherever your station or whatever the case may be, and says, hey, good morning. When you get settled in, come see me if that's okay. Like, right? Like the boss who isn't immediately jumping on you, because let's face it, in a lot of cases, when Wednesday, Thursday, Friday hits, depending upon how the work week is going or whatever the case may be, you get there and you're kind of just like, I need a couple minutes, right? And I think that it says a lot about a boss or an employer who's like, when you get settled in. Have you ever had that? It's like, when you get settled in, come see you. They're not like right on top of you, like, we need to get to work right now.
Well, I think that's a good thing to have, a boss that does that. But by the same token, when we come home, it's good to have that too,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, our children or our partner has been waiting all day for us to get home, and then we get home, and then they, just start asking questions or wanting to do things, and it's important to just get some time to settle in and make the transition to home. And that's where that 5 minutes you were hearing about probably comes in, because you're doing it in the car. Or you can just ask your children or your partner, listen, just let me get everything settled in here.
Give me a
I'll
second.
be with you in a few minutes. Yeah. Well, we don't want to lie to them. We need more than
Yeah.
a second. But give me a few minutes, and then that's another way that we're taking care of ourselves. It's also another way that we're respecting ourselves, in a way that we're causing other people to respect us. Because I'm not going to engage in that conversation right now. Let me do what I have to do. Take shower, or you know eat, or whatever it is that we need to get settled in,
Yeah.
and then say, okay, now I can give you my undivided attention.
I'm good to go.
And yeah. And
Yeah.
so it works coming home. And if you have a boss that is wanting to do that, that's great. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times, bosses are trying to live up to somebody else's standards of what their employees should be. And then they're just wanting to, don't waste a minute. You're here, we got to get right on it. It's
Let's get at it. Yep.
kind of like one of my pet peeves with Amazon, from the people that I know that work for Amazon. They just don't give you, time,
You
because
jump right in there, huh?
they're so afraid that you're going to make, idle time, and they're not going to get productivity out of you. But what they end up doing is, burning a lot of people out, but then they can just fill them with somebody else, because they're just more interested in getting the work done. They don't care who the worker is. So there's not really that sense of relationship, because you just got to meet these demands, and, I've even, had clients, who did fast food, and it's the same thing, they, get an order for a burger, and they got to cook it in a certain amount of time. And if not, then bells start going off, and, and so, you know,
That's
productive.
anxiety inducing.
Yeah. And it's stressful, and it
Yeah.
doesn't see, because having the ability to stop and, take a break, and maybe have a conversation with your coworker, all those things can be very healthy, as
Yeah.
long as you're not spending the whole day having the conversation and very little time working. But see, it comes back to whether we're coming from the love of what we want, or we're coming from the fear of what we don't want. And when the employer is afraid that you're going to take advantage of me, so I'm just going to work here. I'm going to put you on a treadmill that you're just going to have to keep going, kind of like that assembly line, except it's an assembly line where we're walking, not where things are coming by us, where we stand still, back, when Ford created that, back in the beginning of the 1900s.
Yeah.
It's that's why you have breaks, and you have coffee breaks, and lunches, and because you need that time just to get away from the work, so that you can then come back to the work and be more energized. Just like your coworkers had that day off, then they could come back and be at 100% when you weren't feeling at 100%, because you didn't have a time to recharge your batteries.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with everything you're saying. And like I said, I'm sure if any of my coworkers are listening, if we're all in the same boat. I know we're all, working, trying to get this place off the ground. And as John and I have noted, and as most of you know, if you're watching TV or just, reading the news, there's a labor shortage, right? And we're all just doing the best that we can at the moment, and practicing patience, among other things, and strategizing in different ways that we didn't have to pre-COVID. And yeah, that's kind of just where we're at. So, John, I do always appreciate you joining me here. Like I said, I'm going to give my wife the attention that she deserves here on her birthday and every other day. But why don't you give everybody some information if they want to reach out to you a little bit?
Well, email can be contact@supportivealliance.com, or the website is www.supportivealliance.com. So,
excellent. Thank you for joining me as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. We will see you, or actually, if you're listening via our podcast, we will catch up with you next time. Take care, everybody. You have a great night.